Has Anesongib improved since losing to Jake Paul? Here's my Anesongib boxing breakdown. Now, for those who don't know, Anesongib lost to Jake Paul via first round TKO back in January of 2020. He's set to return against Taylor Holder at the Social Gloves YouTuber vs TikToker boxing event on June 12th. In a recent video on Taylor Holder's YouTube page, Bryce Hall said this.
Saw some sparring footage on my TikTok For You page of Gibb, and he did not improve at all from the Jake fight.
So that made me think, is Anesongib any better than when he fought Jake Paul? How we're going to break this down is we're going to first look at the pros and cons of his fight with Jake Paul, which we all know ended in that first round TKO. And then we're going to go into some footage, and we're going to go into the footage specifically that Bryce Hall is talking about. Apparently, popped up on his TikTok feed. So we're actually going to go and look at that sparring footage and see, is Anesongib any better than when he lost to Jake Paul? We're going to start this video on a positive note, and we're going to look at what did Gibb do good in his first fight. So right away in this clip, you can see his head movement's there. His head movement is there. He has all right defense. He's keeping his hands up in this clip. He looks good. He doesn't look great. He doesn't look great, but he looks good. One thing that I did notice, though, he was super aggressive, but we're going to go into all his negatives later on. Another positive to take from this fight, and we're going to see in this clip right here, is he changes levels. He's constantly changing levels with the head movement, too. I think that makes for great defense. I do think he overcommits to the changing of levels. He gets very low, and we're actually going to show you guys a clip and talk about that a little more when we get into the cons, which actually, here we are, we're in the cons, because there wasn't that many positives from that first fight. One thing I would like to say, too, though, is he's not afraid to get in there. He's not afraid to get hit. And although that can be a negative at times, the fact that I think he's willing to go in there and he's willing to take a punch, I think that's a positive for a guy who's, pretty new to the sport. So for Gibb, I do think that's a plus. We already talked about how level changing for Gibb was a positive from his first fight with Jake Paul, and it definitely was. But I think it also turned into a negative in a way because he overcommitted to it. And we're going to see in this clip firsthand right here. So you can see right here, he gets really low, and Jake Paul just times it perfectly, kind of counters with a jab right there, and that's all he needs to do. Now, I don't think Gibb was actually even rocked at any point in that sequence. He was just caught off balance. Let's play it again here. You see he gets clipped. He's already off balance. Then he gets kind of clipped there and then, falls backwards. So, props to Jake Paul for timing that, but really that was more on Gibb's bad footwork that got him into that situation. Going off of that, we're going to look at another clip, and pretty much the same thing. Just look how wide his stance is. You can see he's very wide stance, and that's going to make it hard to counter. It's going to make him hard to produce power, to generate power. That's all it's just a bad technique, and it's just not good for him. I also talked about, Gibb not being afraid being an advantage, and I think that was an advantage, but I also think it was negative in a way because I think sometimes that led to being over-aggressive, especially when the momentum started to swing in Jake Paul's favor. You can see Gibb kind of started to turn it on a little more, but not in a good way. He was just kind of rushing in. Whatever technique he did have kind of went out the door. And we're going to see in this clip here, he comes right at Paul. And Paul just kind of, puts him right into that rope. And the ref kind of, breaks there, obviously, for a 10 count. But, yeah, I think Gibb just got a little overzealous in that moment. I think another thing that Gibb struggled with in this fight was keeping his confidence throughout the first round. Now, obviously, that's hard to do when you're getting battered like he was. And we're going to see in this clip right now, he's kind of now just standing in front, right? He's not changing levels as much. He eats a jab there. He's just a little more wild now. He's standing in front. It's a lot easier for Paul to get these shots on him. And that kind of led to a downfall, which ends up, leading to a first round TKO. So not a great performance by Gibb, but some time has gone by since then. He's even had another fight. It was like an amateur fight, had headgear on and everything like that. He won the fight, and now he's got some training footage. So we're going to go into that right now. So first things first, I think we have to be clear on this. He's fighting a behemoth of a man here. So you're going to see a lot of jabs to the body. He's not actually going to be in most cases, he'd be hitting the guy in the face. In this, he's just hitting the guy's chest because the guy's so much bigger than him. But right away, if you look at this, he just looks a lot more composed, right? And one thing I think that we need to talk on is, obviously, with Jake Paul fight, there was crowd. There was a lot of other elements, just that whole, result too, right? Where in training, you're not really worried about the result in sparring, right? You're more worried about kind of learning and getting the feel for it too. So obviously, there's a lot less pressure when you are sparring. And so that might be why he looks a little more composed. But if you just look here, you can just tell he's a little more comfortable. I think even his movement around the ring looks more comfortable too. And kind of looking at the same clip, one thing I like that he's doing is he's still changing levels and he's still moving his head, but he's doing it in a much productive way. And it's almost, that's a positive where it's not negative, where I felt like in the Jake Paul fight, some of the things that were positives, he was also overcommitting and just so animated with everything that it was going to kind of a negative. So here, it's kind of all positive as far as like his head movement and his level changes. Like he just looks a lot more composed. He looks more of a boxer. He looks like a guy who's been fighting longer, which he has. And I'm literally just going to throw this clip up here, but if you look at this entire footage, he's got a decent jab. He really, really commits to the jab too. We're going to go into that a little more later, but he does have a decent jab and, he seems very committed to it. So let's go into the cons. One thing that he does well actually is, he does keep his hands up for the most part, but one thing he does that I would say is a con is even when he throws at the jab or he tries to put like a combination together, he gets hit because he puts his hands down. And I think that's, kind of common for somebody in his shoes and at this stage of his career. It's something that he still needs to work on, obviously, but you can tell the more punches he throws, the more his guard goes down. So it doesn't always like a return. For the most part, he does when he's throwing like more, maybe like one or two punches. But when he's putting, kind of stringing them together, that's when he kind of struggles with that defense. Now, I talked about his jab being a very good tool for him, and it is a good tool, but he doesn't use it in a way where he sets up a lot of punches. He just throws like a lot of jabs. You'll see in this, he'll throw twice or he'll throw it, 3 straight times, but never, with the other hand too, which that can become predictable at times too. I think it's good to throw double punches in certain situations, but that jab is there too to set up other strikes, to set up other punches, and he doesn't do a great job of that. I think it was a little hard against this opponent per se because the guy is so massive and so big that I think Gib just thought, if he could just keep hitting the guy in the chest, that was like, working for him, and it was a little hard to kind of maybe just like counter, but at the same time, I think that is something he could have done better, and I hope if he's fighting Taylor Holder, that's something that he will do better, because if he doesn't and he's just throwing that jab, eventually you're going to learn that, and it's going to be his attack's going to be a little more predictable. So that's what I took away from Anesongib's recent training footage. There has been other clips that were like from a year ago and also the other fight. And so now I think I'm confident to give you guys my answer. Is Anesongib better than when he fought Jake Paul? Yes, because in all those clips, in all those videos, the training videos, the other sparring footage, his other fight that he had, that he won, and then also this clip that we just looked at, he's definitely improved. I think comfort is a big thing. You can tell he's been there a little longer. I think he still gets overzealous in some scenarios where he kind of just starts throwing a little wild. But again, he hasn't been doing it all that long. So I think that's kind of common. And, although it is common, he does have a fight coming up, right? So he does have to improve. Everyone is kind of labeling Taylor Holder as like the best guy on this card. That's not really for me to say, but from what I've seen, I think Holder does look good. He probably is one that, I think it's safe to say he's one of the more experienced. I don't know if he's going to be the best guy on the card, but he definitely is one of the more experienced guys. And I give props to Gib for taking this fight, to be quite honest, but, is Gib better than, his last performance against Jake Paul? Yeah, definitely. Is he going to win against Taylor Holder? I still honestly don't think so. But that's really not what this video was about. I wanted to make this more about, has he made progressions? I think he has. And he seems a guy who actually enjoys fighting. He enjoys the process, which I think is cool. I don't think he's just doing it for the money. I think that's definitely a benefit, but it's, it does feel like he kind of enjoys this and keeps doing it. I mean, he does keep doing it. So I think it's kind of the proof in the pudding right there. Do I think he's going to win the fight? No. Do I think he got better? Absolutely. And guys, if I missed anything, please let me know in the comments below. If you agree with me, disagree with me, let me know in the comments below. Negative positive, whatever you want. I can take it, guys. I have fun just like communicating with you guys. So yeah, definitely leave some comments below. And if you like this video, guys, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. And if you guys want to see more content, just let me know. I'll be glad to get creative with this. This is not stuff like I normally do. I usually just interview MMA fighters, but it's been fun kind of branching out from that for sure. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.